Hey everyone, welcome back for another video. My name is Tanya, for those of you that are new here, and I'm a watercolor artist. So in today's video, I wanted to paint something really simple and really fun. Christmas is right around the corner, so I thought let's just do a little reindeer. So I tried to simplify him as much as I could, and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so to get started, I've got my watercolor paper, I have a pencil, an eraser, and I have my Arteza watercolor brush pens. I'll let you know what color I'm using as I'm going along. If you don't have the Arteza brand, it's okay. You can use any brand you want. I've got some generic paintbrushes here, different sizes. And then I also have my Winsor Newton watercolors in case I want to bring in just a regular watercolor. All right, so to get started, we're going to just be sketching out a little bit here of our reindeer. And I'm going to start with his little face. It's going to be like an oval. And you want to leave enough room for the antlers up here, so don't make your head too high up on the paper. Just you want to do it kind of right in the middle here. Just an oval. Just be as sketchy as you want about it. And then you can bring down his long neck. And actually, you know what? I think I am going to bring his head down just a little bit more, just to leave a little bit more room for the antlers. All right. Okay, so I'm going to bring his head probably down more here. There we go. And then just bring his little neck down. And we're going to do his little ears next. And you want the ears kind of coming off the side of the page here. Just like that. Almost like a little teardrop. And then his antlers, what I do to make the antlers a little bit easier is I actually just start out with like a stick drawing. And then put as many of these little the little parts that come off the main antler. Just put as many as you want. Okay, so it's very generic. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do almost like bubble letters, and I'm just going to go around it. Just like that. And then I'm going to erase that line in the middle. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. So it's just kind of like bubble letters. And that was just to kind of guide you to make them look a little bit more like how you're envisioning. It's just a little bit easier to do that stick drawing at the beginning. Go ahead and erase the middle. And you can go ahead and lighten up your drawing at this point if you want to. I'm not going to lighten up my drawing because I want you to be able to see it on camera. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do his little nose. You can make it Rudolph or you can make it any reindeer you want. I'm going to do a red nose on this one, but I'm going to have kind of like a little oval right there. And then I'm going to do his eyes. I want them to be really cute, like he's looking up at his antlers. So I'm going to do these little ovals right here. And just like his pupil is looking up. So see how I did that? So I did like a little oval with another oval inside it. Almost like he's looking up. So that's about all we're going to do for the, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and put on some ornaments really quick. So I'm going to do some little circles here, like he's got some ornaments hanging off his little antlers. You can place them wherever you want. Just make sure they're kind of by his antler because you want it to be attached to the antler like it's just hanging there. Like that. All right, so the rest is going to be watercolor. So I'm going to be picking up, I've got my walnut brown here, and I'm just going to be kind of just going over the sides of him, kind of like a little outline at first. Remember, we're just going to be putting in the watercolor marker, and then we're going to be adding the water to it. So my page is not wet right now. And I want to go ahead and add a little texture. So the faster you go with your watercolor marker, you're going to see all this white paper showing through. It's very grainy. And I want that look right now because this is going to be a furry little body. So I'm going to go really, really fast here and just make it as grainy as I can. Just like that. So I'm not filling in everything completely. You still see a lot of the white showing through. I'm going to do the same thing to his head. So first I'm going to outline the head. Make sure you go around the eyes and the nose. You don't want to get brown in his eyes and nose. So you can go around that. And then just do the same thing. Make it really grainy. Just go really fast. And I'm just having my strokes go vertically because if I went horizontally, it wouldn't look right. You just want his fur to look like it's going vertically. All right. I am going to add a little bit of water on my paintbrush, and I'm going to bring in, I've got my burnt umber here. I'm going to bring in a little bit of burnt umber. As I'm putting water on my watercolor marker, I'm going to be bringing in also my burnt umber. So I've got a little burnt umber on my brush, and I'm putting it on, trying to blend in, but don't blend it in too much. You want to see that grainy look. See how we have lights and darks here? I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my burnt umber, and I'm going to be just placing it on top of my watercolor marker. Okay, so I've got two colors going on there. I've got regular watercolor, my Winsor Newton, and I've got my Arteza watercolor brush pen. So they're both mixed together there. See the difference? You see it became a little bit more yellowy, and that's what I wanted. This was just a little bit too chocolatey brown for me. I wanted to have a little bit more like a golden yellow in there. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing for the head. Add a little bit of my burnt umber going around the head. And it's okay if you go outside the lines because we're going to make it look like he's kind of furry anyways. But just be careful going around his nose and his eyes. Okay. Now, if you want to make it look like he's got some fur coming off, all you got to do is just kind of just rough up that edge a little bit. Just rough up the edge a little bit. Go outside the lines. But now, reindeer aren't that fur. I mean, they're furry, but it's not like long fur like on a long-haired dog. So you just want it to be just a little bit, to rough up that edge just a little bit, but not too much. You don't really want a perfect clean line, unless that's the look you're going for. If you want a perfect clean line, definitely go for it. I'm also going to put a little bit of hair coming up right in the middle of his antlers here. Just a couple little wisps of hair, just like that, to make it look cute. All right, let's let this dry, and we're going to go on to his antlers at this point. All right, so the antlers, I'm picking up my ash black, and I'm just going to outline, go right over your pencil as best you can. Okay, and do the other one. Just like that. All right, now his antlers, we want them to stay light, but we want to give it a little bit of dimension so that you know that they're there. You don't want white or light too, because the background is going to be white. So you want them to stand out a little bit. So that's why we added a little bit of the gray. Now I'm taking my watercolor brush, my watercolor brush with just water, and I'm going to be adding a little bit of water just around the edges here. You want to give it a little bit of a shadow. Now you can do any kind of gray you want. I just chose that one because I had it on hand, but you could do any gray you want. And if you want to get really kind of fun, you could even do his antlers different color. You could do red, you could do green for Christmas, whatever you want. All right, but you just go over the edges, just like that. You want to leave the middle of the antler still nice and light. All right, do the same thing to the next one. Just go over the edges with a little bit of water. You're activating that watercolor marker right now. You're activating the ink. All right, so we're gonna let that dry too. We might come in with a little bit more water later, just to mix it up a little bit more. And you could pull some of that brown from his face up into the antlers. It kind of gives it a different little tone there, a little bit more of a depth if you start putting in a little bit of brown up in his antlers. All right, let's go ahead and do his eyes. Let's go ahead and do his ears. So the ears, I want the inside to be pink, but I do still want that brown fur on the outside. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just outline the ears with the same brown, the walnut brown that I had done, my Arteza watercolor brush pen. I'm doing the same brown on the ears. And I'm gonna go ahead and blend that in a little bit before we add the pink. Blend it in. If you blend it in the whole ear, you're gonna have that brown throughout your ear. Try and leave the middle light like we did with the antlers here. So just kind of outline it and bring it in. Just activate that ink a little bit. Give it a little depth in there. And then what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna actually bring in my Opera Pink. It's my Daniel Smith Opera Pink. And I really like this color. So I'm just gonna dilute it a little bit on my palette here. And I'm gonna bring in a little bit of pink in his ear, just like that. Okay, and let the two colors just mesh together. All right, now we're gonna do his nose, and I'm picking up red. And you can go ahead and outline it. Now just make sure that his face is nice and dry before you do this part, because then you're gonna have red in his fur. All right, and if you want a little highlight on his nose, leave a little white on his nose. We can always go back in later with our bleed proof white, but try and leave a little white space if you can. I'm just activating that ink again with some water on my brush. Not too much water, because then you're gonna get a puddle. Okay, perfect. All right, let's go on to his little ornaments. The ornaments, I'm gonna use teal, but you can use any color you want. But I'm just gonna use teal just to bring in a little bit of green into this painting. So again, I'm just outlining the ornaments, and I wanna leave a little bit of white or light in the middle, depending on how much water you use. Because if you use a lot of water, it will fill up the whole ornament because it's a small space. If you use a little bit of water, just a little damp brush, you can achieve leaving a little bit of white or light in the middle of the ornament, because you want a little bit of a highlight like we did here on his nose. So I'm gonna pick up my watercolor brush again, just damp with some water, not too much, because then it will leave a big puddle in your ornament. And I wanna leave a highlight, so I'm just using a little bit of water. Going around, activating that watercolor ink on all four, or however many ornaments you have on your little reindeer. All right. And go ahead and just kind of shape your ornaments at this point. If they're not as round as you want, just go ahead and keep trying to make them as round as you can. All right, so see how I left a little bit of a highlight in there? If that highlight is too bright for you, you can go ahead and close it up a little bit. Just wash off your brush, kind of a dry brush, and then just bring in that watercolor that's already on your paper. Just close in that little dot that you had left. Just close it in a little bit. And it just kind of tones it down a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and do his eyes. I'm gonna pick up that ash black again, and I wanna leave some of the white. I want it to look like he's looking up at his little antlers, those ornaments. So I'm doing the black. See how I did the black part of his eye on the top? And I left the white of his eyes at the bottom because I want it to look like he's looking up. But you don't have to do that. You can have him looking straight forward. You can have him looking down, maybe at his nose, whatever you want. Fill it in. Okay, look how cute that is. And actually, if you want, you can go ahead and just kind of outline down here a little bit too. It just brings a little bit more depth to the bottom of his eyes. All right, I'm not gonna put any water on there yet, because what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna bring in that walnut brown again. I wanna give him a little bit more depth down here. So I'm gonna kind of just do like he's shaded like under his little chin, maybe on the sides here of his little body. Bring down as much as you want. And again, go in kind of a fast motion so you still have that grainy look. You still want that grainy look. Now I'm gonna do a little bit of the sides of his face here too, just so it kind of highlights the middle part of his face. You're gonna leave that a little bit lighter. And you're just gonna put in a little bit more ink on the sides of his face. All right. I'm gonna go in and pull in, this time, I'm gonna pull in a little bit of my yellow ochre. I just want a little bit more of dimension down here, a little bit more of a highlight in his body. So I'm pulling in just a little bit of yellow, just more towards the middle here. And I'll do a little bit on his face too. Okay. Now you can go ahead and start activating that other layer that you had just done, that darker layer, and you can let the two mesh together, the yellow and that dark that you had just done. Look how pretty that is. If you want a little bit more fur coming out, just pull it out from the sides here with your brush, very gently, like that. And the same thing with his little head. You're gonna activate that ink, that second layer you just had done, and pull it out a little bit, depending on how furry you want his little face. There. Oh, is he cute. All right, we did not activate his eyes yet, the ink on his eyes. So we're gonna leave that alone for a second because we just did the brown and I don't want the black and the brown to mesh. I'm gonna pick up, I've got a turtle green, and I'm gonna give a little bit more dimension to these ornaments. So I'm gonna go over my teal, and I'm just going to do just one side. Always pick a shaded side and a highlighted side. So my shaded side is gonna be the left side of the ornaments, okay? So I am just doing a little bit of like a C. It's almost like a little outline, just a little C curve on the ornaments. Like that. So it gives it a little bit more dimension. And then go ahead and activate that with just a little bit of water on your brush. And if that didn't do the trick, you can always pull in maybe just some regular watercolor. Let's see, what color do I have over here? I've got my Winsor green blue. So I'm gonna get that nice and damp, and I'm gonna bring in a little bit more, just on the same side that we just did, but I'm pulling in a little bit more. I just wanted a little bit more push from that dark green. There, so that looks really pretty. You've got your highlighted side and your shaded side. All right, my face is almost dry, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the pupils of his eyes. Just add a little bit of water. And if you wanna bring in a little bit of like a Payne's gray, if you want like a little bit more of a shade under his, a little bit more of a shadow under his neck here, you can always bring in a little bit of black or Payne's gray, whatever you want. I'm just dabbing in a little bit on the sides and under his chin, just to give it a little bit more shadow. And his body was still wet, so it's just kind of blending together, which I like. I like that. All right. He is so cute. So we're gonna let his eyes dry, and then we're gonna come in with a little bit of bleed-proof white and just give it a little bit of a highlight. Okay, so his face is nice and dry. His body is still a little bit wet, but that's okay. We're only gonna deal with his face at this point. I'm gonna take a little bit of my Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed-proof white, and again, a generic paintbrush. You don't wanna use a good watercolor brush for this. I'm just gonna put a little highlight in each eye. And if you want to make that little highlight on his nose a little bigger, you can. If you want to put a little highlight, let's say you had done most of your ink inside the antlers. If you want to put a little highlight in his antlers, you can. I have enough white in there that I don't need that. But I am going to put a little white highlight on each of his little ornaments here, just to give it a little sparkle. And I think that's all I'm going to do to him. Let's see, I might want to bring in maybe a little splatter paint in the background, just to add a little something in the background. Let's see, what color should I choose? I'm almost thinking green. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my Winsor green blue. I'm just going to get it nice and damp here. Make a nice big puddle, get enough water on there, because I'm going to put a little splatter paint in the background. So I'm going to take one brush, And then I'm gonna just kind of dab it just like that. Just hit it a little bit gently. You can kind of control where the watercolor goes. If you want a little bit more, just get a little bit more on your brush and add a little more. Look how cute that is. Now, if you got a little watercolor in his ears or wherever that you don't want it, or on his antlers, just pick it up. Just dab it off with a little paper towel. While it's still wet, you're able to pick that up. There you go. So one other thing I forgot to do is I forgot to make the little hooks for the ornaments. So you can go ahead, and I'm using my Micron archival ink pen, and I'm just gonna put a little square that hooks onto the ornament, and I'm gonna do kind of like it's a little string hanging from that little square. And I'm gonna do it on all the ornaments. There. Now he's done. So cute. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you liked it and learned a little something. And if you did like it, please give me a thumbs up, and you can make a comment in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this one. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day. Bye.